After an absolutely wild finish in Atlanta, Cameron Dicker and Justin Herbert came up clutch, and the Chargers escaped Atlanta with a win over the Falcons.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now together for 6 seasons, but this is our 5th season as a host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Well, thank you guys for making this your first listen after a wild finish that we all had to kind of sit through and just hang on for. To make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel if you haven't already. And make sure you're following the show for free on all platforms, wherever you get your podcast from. And David, I think we're at the point with the Chargers seasons where you'll take it, right? The Chargers escape Atlanta with a 20-17 win. We both picked them to lose. They upset us, and it was a wild sequence to end that game. Cameron Dicker, their new kicker, comes up with the game-winning quick kick, and we'll talk about that. But Justin Herbert, I thought, was excellent in this game as well. Leads a game-tying and game-winning drive at the end of the game. There was a lot in between that we'll have to talk about. And then Josh Palmer, right? A redemption story. As an interception basically on him after the ball bounces off his hands. He comes up huge on the last 2 drives for the Chargers, and on the very last drive gets them in a very close field goal range, which they were not, right? And then we'll also talk about the Chargers defense getting beat up a lot of the time, but making enough plays in the second half, getting them back into the game in the first half to get the win for the Chargers. But today's episode of Locked On Chargers is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is your daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com. Promo code Locked On. All right, David. Well, we cover the Chargers, so we've seen wild finishes, but I don't think we've seen any like the one we saw at the end of the game against the Atlanta Falcons and the way the Chargers won. The Chargers have a great drive to come back and get into field goal range. They get to around the 20, the 22 to be exact. And you're like, okay, I feel okay about this, even with a brand new kicker, and we'll see what happens, right? But then Austin Ekeler does the one thing you can't do in that situation. He fumbles. The defensive lineman, Taquan Graham, picks the ball up and runs back, and as Justin Herbert is about to hit him, nobody touches him. He fumbles, gives the ball back to the Chargers. It's first down instead of fourth down because the other team had possessed it, and then the Chargers end up getting the ball back, get a big play to Josh Palmer, and kick the game-winning field goal. It felt like everything was over at that point, and somehow the Chargers found a way through.
It's because Justin Herbert put the fear of God into him. He knew he was about to run straight through him. No, massive fumble recovery there. Yeah, and you can't have it. You can't have the fumble there by Austin Ekeler, a guy who's really, honestly, very, very secure with the football. You don't really see that a whole lot. And then in the one moment where you absolutely cannot have it, and the Chargers are driving, they're about to put the football game away, they fumble, and then by the grace of God, they're able to get the football back after some phantom fumble by Graham there. And then just the absolutely fantastic, beautiful connection from Herbert to Josh Palmer to get all those yards pretty much right back and put them in position to be able to give Dicker, the kicker, an opportunity to win the game.
Well, and shout out to Dicker, man. Ice in his veins for sure. To come into a new team like that, he hits the game-tying 31-yard field goal to tie it at 17. That was disappointing because the Chargers, you felt like that was a big loss at that point. Yeah. But you get the tie game, and then he comes back, and I don't care how far it is, right? Context matters. There's no easy field goal to win a game, right? The whole, process has to go right. The snap, the hold, the kick, so many things can go wrong. It can get blocked. So you can't take that for granted. Shout out to Cameron Dicker, who played one game with the Eagles and had a go-ahead kick late in the game for them, and then comes to the Chargers and has a game-winning kick. David, we've seen so many bad kickers for the Chargers, and then now we've seen, Taylor Bertolette coming in and hitting his field goals in games when he needed to, and then now you have Cameron Dicker coming in. Shout out to Dicker, the kicker, man. That is a pretty good performance, no matter how far the field goals were.
Not only the kickers, but let's give some credit to the Chargers special team staff now, right? And we have to. You absolutely have to give them a round of applause. The Chargers were notoriously atrocious on special teams the last several years. The Chargers make a big change here, bringing in a new special teams coordinator, and this entire unit is completely changed over. It is much, much better. It is an asset now and not a deterrent, and that it was not always a given for the Chargers. So shout out to the Chargers special teams.
Yeah, not a given is definitely putting it mildly. But yeah, the Chargers special teams comes through again. Atlanta misses a field goal. Their old kicker, Younghoe Koo, misses a 50-yarder. Really, that, changes the entire game at that point. The Chargers kicker makes his kicks. Dicker makes kicks, right? And that's what ended up winning the Chargers this game. But it wouldn't have happened without Justin Herbert. And I mean, I looked at the box score after the game, and it just didn't seem like that was doing what Justin Herbert did in this game justice, because he looked like old Justin Herbert. He looked like the Justin Herbert we've been covering, right, for the last 2+ years now. And I thought he made some really incredible throws in this one. His pocket presence was amazing. I don't think he was sacked at all in this game, right? And that was a lot because of him, right, being able to move around and avoid the pressure.
He's a magician in the pocket. It's ridiculous.
100%. Like, some of the throws that he got off were insane. I mean, it goes down as 30 of 43, 245 yards and 1 touchdown, 1 interception. It's not really great, but then it's like the context matters, right? And other people are going to look at that and bash Herbert and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, the interception was a tipped up ball, of course. The 4th time this year he's had a tip ball or something that he just can't do anything about.
That hit Josh Palmer right in the hands.
Totally.
Hit him right in the hands.
Hands off the face mask, up in there, interception. After that Khalil Mack grown man move, which we'll talk about later on in the show.
We'll be talking about that.
But David, I mean, he deserves a ton of credit. In this game, Justin Herbert, you get the ball back. Nothing had been going right for them offensively. The offense struggled again at the beginning of the game, at the beginning of the third quarter. But when it mattered, Justin Herbert was coming through and he was making all the big throws to get down and get into field goal range for that game-tying field goal, right? And then he gets the chance with the ball in his hands to go end the game, put the team on his back, and go get the Chargers a win, really steal a win for Atlanta, and he does it. He gets him, I mean, even after that fumble, right? That fumble lost them 20 yards of field position.
Yeah.
He comes right back, throws a laser to Josh Palmer, one of several just absolute dimes on the day, and they go ahead and win this game, and Justin Herbert deserves a lot of credit for it.
No Keenan Allen, no Mike Williams,
Huge.
no Rashawn Slater in this game. The Chargers and Justin Herbert did exactly what he needed to do, which was spread the football around to many different receivers. He connected on 5 different passes to 5 different receivers in this game. So he was spreading the wealth, using all of the weapons at his disposal to get the ball down the field. And it was enough. He looked a lot more comfortable. He looked a lot more healthy. You saw him run a little bit. I think that Justin Herbert, this is a big performance for him. Give him some good confidence that no matter who you give him, no matter the receivers, the running backs that are out there, he can make things happen and he can go out there and win a football game for you. I hope this puts a little bit more respect back on Justin Herbert's name.
Yeah, and I mean, his game looks completely different, right? If you don't have a big drop by Gerald Everett, a big drop by Josh Palmer that turns into an interception, a big drop by Austin Ekeler on a screen pass, where who knows where that one ends up, right? So that changes everything. It definitely changes the complexion of his game. But like, to me, the last few games, he didn't seem right. He wasn't great in those games. To me, I didn't think there's much else he could have done than what he did. I thought he had one bad drive in the second half where he just seemed off. They took a random deep shot in double coverage. That wasn't great. But everything else for me, I mean, I thought he was pretty spot on. I mean, obviously, a couple
two of those
bad
drops,
passes.
Daniel, we're talking about 275, 260, 275 passing. Easy.
100%. I mean, that Gerald Everett one probably goes for at least 25 yards. I mean, that was totally derailing with a chance to really.
Too.
Yeah. I mean, the screen to Ekeler would have been nice too. And then obviously he doesn't have an interception in his box score if Josh Palmer holds on to the football. But Justin Herbert was great again. You were saying he was spreading it around. I was just thinking, spreading it around to everything he has left, because he doesn't have anything really offensively. Their skilled position department is just so ravaged with injuries right now. And I didn't know how they were going to be able to do it in this game. Obviously, I wasn't sure that the Chargers defense would end up holding the Falcons to less than 20 points, right? With a couple of things that went their way definitely towards the end of the game. But I mean, they did enough. And I thought Josh Palmer in this game really stepped up when he had to, especially after having, such a demoralizing play like he did, to come back and really be wide receiver 1 for the Chargers, like we were calling for him to be before the game. I thought was huge. And I don't think the Chargers win this game without it. I mean, he did have the big drop, but he had a couple of big hits that he took in big time catches on the game tying drive and the game winning drive. So we'll talk about him stepping up as wide receiver 1. DeAndre Carter really having a sneaky good game, in my opinion. His box score, another thing where it's like the context matters. A lot of 3rd and 4th down conversions by DeAndre Carter in this one, but still some things to iron out offensively, and then maybe the Chargers win this game convincingly. So we're going to get into that and Josh Palmer's really nice performance. But first, I do have to tell you guys about my favorite daily fantasy site. And of course, I'm talking about PrizePicks. What I love about PrizePicks is you get to go just against PrizePicks projections, right? You get to find the matchups that work great for you. And when you do that, you can pick 2 to 5 players. And if you win, you can win up to 10 times the money on your entry. All you have to do is have those 2 to 5 guys go more than or less than their PrizePicks projections, and you win. And right now, it's not too late to get your projections in and your picks in for the Sunday night football game. You also have Monday night football tomorrow night. And right now, guys, you can also just bet on other sports that you guys can use your PrizePicks projections for the NBA, MLB, NHL, golf, MMA, and much more. So if you're looking to find the projections where you get to go and handpick the ones that you want to go against, you guys can win with PrizePicks. All you have to do is download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports today. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If you put in $100, you will get $100 back. If you put in $50, you'll get $50. So don't forget to go and put the promo code Locked On in at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. David, we talked about Justin Herbert, and he definitely was clutch. Him and Dicker, the kicker, were both clutch at the end of the game, but so was Josh Palmer at the end of the game. I mean, his release on that final play to get those 22 yards, to get it down to the 21-yard line, I thought were really clutch in this game. And I just thought it was a really, really nice bounce back performance because he had what felt like it was one of the things that was going to lose the Chargers the game. Khalil Mack literally strips Drake London, takes the ball right out of his hands, gets the ball back to the 50 when the Chargers were really flailing in this game, and it seemed like it was getting away from him. Josh Palmer drops the ball that he probably ends up getting a first down on, right? The Chargers maybe go down and get points. It turns into an interception. They can't capitalize on their own takeaway, and they have a turnover of their own. But Josh Palmer comes back in this game, David, and really stepped up as wide receiver 1 in this one. I mean, he had a lot of backlash, and I was saying, hey, it's time to live up to the hype, right? He goes, does what he does, 8 catches, 106 yards, a career high, averages 13.3 yards per catch. But the catches he had, I mean, I just think that even with that tipped interception, like there's no way to not feel good about Josh Palmer after this performance.
And you needed it. You absolutely had to have the big performance from Josh Palmer in this game. Like we talked about, no Keenan Allen, no Mike Williams. This was going to be the Josh Palmer show. This was going to be the big opportunity for him to be the number 1 guy, to be featured, to make the big catches, to be put in the spotlight situations on third down when you got to have it to move the chains. He did that repeatedly in this game. A big confidence-boosting performance by Josh Palmer, one you love to see, one that can reverberate and have some positive effects for this Chargers offense as we go along this season.
Yeah, and it's nice just because, like, when Keenan Allen went down the first time, right, we knew, I mean, after week 1, he's probably going to miss multiple weeks. We knew, hey, there's this Josh Palmer guy who really, we thought could have a big season, but might not see the targets that he would need to kind of show that, right? And it's like, okay, perfect. You have the chance right now to step in for Keenan Allen and be that guy and be wide receiver 2 until he can get back and Mike Williams be wide receiver 1. He didn't do it, right? He had one pretty good game and a blowout against the Jaguars. But besides that, he was very pedestrian. And it just seemed like it was a bunch of puff pieces, right? And offseason hype that he wasn't living up to. And in this game, when they needed him to be wide receiver 1, he was for most of the game. I mean, that to get that 22-yard catch to set the field goal, who knows if Dicker makes it, right? If it's a farther field goal, and then a bunch of different things start going through your mind, right? On the game-tying drive, he has a 21-yarder where he jumps up inside the 10-yard line. The Chargers end up going backwards, but takes a big hit, makes that catch, gets a first and goal. I mean, that was huge. I mean, his route running was great. His releases were really good, and he was getting open in big moments, kind of like DeAndre Carter. I thought DeAndre Carter was a big-time unsung hero in this one because, I mean, another guy where I look at the box score, I see 5 catches for 53 yards, and I'm like, that doesn't tell the whole story. Got the only 4th down conversion for the Chargers, and to me, he played in that Keenan Allen role. He was Keenan Allen in some places in this game where on 3rd and 4th down, Justin Herbert was going to DeAndre Carter, and they weren't a bunch of big catches, but they were big-time catches where, I mean, there was at least 2 or 3 of those. He's getting smoked as he's catching that ball in a tight window, right? And he's holding on to it. The other one, crazy window, 2 defenders collide. He ends up picking
laser beam.
Laser beam. Another 15 yards after the catch on that one. Like I thought DeAndre Carter, right, like is a guy that, hey, if you didn't get to watch this game, you might think, hey, okay, he had an okay game. He was really, really big for them in some big moments.
Palmer, man, great game by Palmer, but a fantastic game by DeAndre Carter as well. Yeah, definitely, you don't see the big stat numbers there, but when the Chargers needed him to show up, that fourth down reception was big to move the chains, to be able to, and also on special teams too, had a couple of good returns, had a 16-yard punt return as well. So, I mean, on punt return, he's been an asset. Kick return, not so much, but we knew this coming in. He was going to be an asset as a punt returner. Some big catches, and remember, this was a guy that we thought was going to be sprinkled in a little bit, on offense. Maybe kind of be a little bit of a threat there as a gadget guy, but no, he's been a key member of this Chargers wide receiver group and has made big catches for the Chargers all season. It's clear that he and Justin Herbert have a chemistry and a trust there, and Justin Herbert's going to him, and Carter continues to convert.
Yeah, and that big time return was on the last bump return that he had, right, to set the Chargers up. I mean, starting at like the mid-30s as opposed to like your own 20-yard line is a big difference.
It's big
in that part of the field. So I think that was a great call on that. I mean, he has been good. The Chargers haven't had a punt returner really be an asset like that in a long time, and he most importantly caught the ball, right? I mean, one muff punt probably loses you that game straight up. Like that's just, it is what it is. But it wasn't all great for the Chargers offense, and we still left a lot to be desired, especially at the beginning of the first quarter and at the beginning of the third quarter. Again, it sucks that it's the same story, and I think that is something that has to be mentioned from this game because you start off with 2 3-and-outs, right? Obviously brutal. You have a tip pass on third down, and that was frustrating because it was definitely we know exactly what you're doing. It's 3rd and 3, and we know you're going to run stick, and we know you're going to do the short passes. So all we have to do is wait a couple seconds before Justin Herbert throws it, and then we all jump. Somebody bats a ball down, right? So that was frustrating. You can't do that, right? And that gets you down in a 10-0 hole. It's not a sustainable model to keep. The Chargers have gotten down 10 points in 4 straight games, and they've won 3 of them. What sense does that make? It doesn't make any sense. Either way, unsustainable. It was frustrating at the beginning, and I was, yelling at Joe Lombardi on my TV and Justin Herbert and the supporting cast. It just seemed
got
like
that feeling like it's just the same team. They made no adjustments. It was ugly. You're like, this is the way this is going to go. And that not only on defense, they get the ball run down their throat straight up from the beginning of the first quarter to the end of the first quarter, got absolutely ran all over. And on offense, you do nothing. And you're sitting there like, what did this team do for 2 weeks? Did they not do anything? But fortunately, it did not stay that way.
Yeah, of course, man. And you do, the coaching staff does deserve some blame for that. To start off in a 10-0 hole when you've had a week, 2 weeks to prepare for this team and for this game. Those are when the plays are scripted at the very beginning of the game. So for Joe Lombardi to come out, and hey, maybe things are different if the ball doesn't get batted down right, and maybe it's a well-orchestrated drive. Doesn't matter. It just seems like to me, this team needs to try to get that first down first. It feels like if they get that first down, they're scoring points almost every single time.
They can kick it into gear.
Or it's 3 and out. Like that's the only 2 things. It's totally feast or famine for this offense right now. And it was at the beginning of the game. And it just, to me, it's like, hey, you've been watching this, Atlanta Falcons bad defense for 2 weeks. You should be coming out with like a 48-yard gain down the middle of the field. Like you should have some plays in your bag on those first 2 drives to get something going. And for the defense and the offense to come out looking that rusty, looking that unprepared, and just getting beat up was a tough look. And then to start the second half, I mean, it was even worse. 3 straight drives, another 3+ straight scoreless drive stretch for this Chargers offense.
Interception, punt, just ugly.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. Punt, interception, punt. And like, especially when you can't take advantage of another turnover, right? And then it drops after that because it was an interception that was from a drop. There was the one bad drive I talked about with Justin Herbert where just things were not there. And then Gerald Everett, obviously, Joe Lombardi did the perfect thing. Come out with a big play. He's not running the ball on first down, coming out of halftime. He has a 25-yard shot play up the middle, catch and run with Gerald Everett, where he is literally the most open of any Chargers receiver all day long. He drops it, bobbles it, drops it, and just totally erases what could have been a good drive and potentially the Chargers getting the Falcons out of their game plan early on, which is exactly what we wanted in the second
Drops
half.
And penalties. That's just what it kills drives. And the Chargers, honestly, were pretty darn good on third down in this game. They converted a 50% rate. So they did really, really well. But that play right there was just so devastating because you've been wanting to see the Chargers take those shots and really just make them respect you, make them respect your ability to do that. They do it. They dial it up. It works perfectly, except for you don't catch the football. And it's just like, how does this happen? You got to complete that. And that's not the first time it's happened this year, unfortunately. for Everett. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's he's got to have those. If he has that play, we're probably talking about a completely different outcome here.
Maybe. I mean, we'll never know, but at the same
Yeah.
time, though, at least like you're set up for a good chance to get points coming out of halftime, which is not a given for this Chargers team
Right.
and this Chargers offense. And that it does change the way you feel about the start of that second half for sure. And it's just another brutal drop by him. I mean, it was on first down, but then you're starting second 10, you're behind the sticks, and the Chargers still should have picked it up after that. But like,
Yeah.
you could have gotten going and you could have gotten that first down. And Gerald Everett, I thought, was a little disappointing. He had a couple of good plays, right? But I mean, when that's the thing you're known most from this game is that big drop, that's obviously a bad taste to leave in your mouth. But it just feels like, David, that this Chargers offense, like every game is 2 or 3 plays away from being a good offense. Like it doesn't seem like it's very far away, but they just keep having these scoreless droughts. They keep having the tip passes or the drop balls or something that derails them.
Shout out to Isaiah Spiller too, right?
Yeah, I liked Isaiah Spiller a lot. We'll get into him tomorrow on Buy or Sell too, because I really liked what I saw from Isaiah Spiller. He was the best Chargers running back running the football on Sunday against the Falcons. But we do have to talk a little bit about the defense, including one of the most grown man moves I've ever seen on a football field. Khalil Mack making his presence known. The man is an animal. So we'll talk about his big play and the Chargers defense coming up with some timely big plays to do enough to get the Chargers a big win in this one. But I do need to tell you guys that the official betting sponsor of the Locked On Chargers podcast is BetOnline.net. It's your number one source for all betting football and the start of the new basketball season as well. And the difference with BetOnline, the most places that you place your bets, is this is the number one stop for all of the information that you need to place your bets as well, which is very important. Do your homework. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. One of the things I love about BetOnline, I'm a prop bet guy. For better or for worse, I love the prop bets. And no matter what you're looking at, if you're looking at, MMA fights and knockouts and will they finish the round, or just in football, who's going to score a touchdown, you can find all the prop bets that you want at BetOnline. That's where I'm spending my Sundays, watching 7 hours of football and going on BetOnline.net. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more at BetOnline, where the game starts. Well, David, the defense for the Chargers obviously was coming into this game giving up 27 points per game, 31st in the NFL. And one of the reasons that both of us picked the Chargers to lose this game was because of how bad their defense had been, right? And also just knowing, kind of like the Browns game, right? Where like we go into it feeling like, okay, you're going up against a good rushing attack. I know the Falcons are going to get theirs on the ground. Can they do enough to kind of win this game? And I think both times we kind of decided like, maybe not, And so the Chargers end up getting away with some really tough moments of this game, right? Getting down 10-0, but they made enough plays. And I think that's kind of what we have to live with this defense, right? Is, hey, they're going to bend sometimes. They're going to give up some yards. They're going to give up some points. Can they get the few key sacks? Can they get the key turnover that they need to turn the game around? And that, I mean, even though no points came out of it, though, it seemed like the Chargers defense did make a statement at the start of the second half when Khalil Mack, after the Chargers offense couldn't do anything on their first drive, manhandled Drake London, drops into coverage. It's like, okay, well, all right, whatever. We'll see what happens. Chips Drake London. He ends up making the catch inside the 5-yard line. And the best way, David, to recover a fumble is if the fumble just never hits the ground. And that's exactly what happened, because Khalil Mack just ripped the ball out of Drake London's hand and never hit the ground. He runs it back almost to the 50-yard line. Him running with the ball in his hand was hilarious too. He just like had it out here. I'm like, oh no. Like I thought the Taquan Graham thing was going to happen to Khalil Mack with him holding that ball out there like a loaf of bread. But what a play. I mean, Khalil Mack continues, to pay dividends and prove the Chargers right on that trade, because yes, the Chargers throw an interception, right, and they give it right back after that. But that was such a big play to me, such an awesome play by Khalil Mack.
The definition of taking candy from a baby was that play right there. Khalil Mack literally just went over, rips the ball right out of his hand, says thank you very much, and proceeds to rumble 40 plus yards down the football field, dragging like 6 Falcons with him. He is a monster. He has been fantastic for the Chargers. He has been a godsend. I mean, to be able to be here right now, to be playing the level of football that he's been playing week in and week out, staying healthy, crossing our fingers here. Khalil Mack's been fantastic. He's been a revelation. Man, without Khalil Mack, this Chargers defense would look completely different. You don't even want to envision it. Just another example of how he makes this impact through a play like that on this Chargers defense is just fantastic to watch him.
100%. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Chargers defensive struggles, David. I mean, giving up another, 200-yard ground performance to the Falcons when obviously you knew
Another
coming into
40-plus yard run.
Well, yeah, I mean, almost another big, long touchdown, too, that got called that back by Cordero Patterson. But, yeah, Tyler Algier totally tore them up. I mean, they got out physical, and that's the worst way to do it, because I think there's a lot of times this year where the Chargers weren't totally getting manhandled up front, and they just kept not connecting on those big plays, which is why without the big plays, they're actually a decent run defense. In this game, they were getting blown off. There were very clear lanes for the Falcons running backs to find, and they end up giving up 5.7 yards per carry, which is right around where their season average is. So, I mean, they're right on brand. But besides that, David, I do think there's, good points to focus on. And to me, it started in the first half when this game was going to get away from the Chargers, right? The Chargers are down 10-0. The Falcons get the ball back with a chance to go up 17-0, which is a deficit we've seen the Chargers face in the third quarter or first quarter very recently.
Yep.
Drew Tranquill comes up with a huge third down sack. And then on the next drive after the Chargers get back into it with a touchdown, Derwin James, coming out of the slot on the line of scrimmage, ends up coming in for a great design sack.
Untouched.
And it got the Chargers back in the game, let them retake the lead 14-10. So as many bad moments as there were, that was a key sequence for the Chargers, because this one could have gotten away from them.
Hey, I said before this game I wanted to see them use Drew Tranquill on the blitz. They did it. It just seems to work every single time. I don't know why they don't do it more. I know there's a lot of responsibilities for Drew Tranquill as the middle linebacker, but it just seems like every time he is sent after the quarterback, good things happen for this Chargers offense. This Chargers defense. Derwin James also coming through his third sack of the season. Those two guys just continuing to make plays week in and week out. And I mean, Jesus, if this continues for Drew Tranquill, the sides of the contract that he's about to sign, hopefully by the Chargers. I mean, hopefully they don't let another good linebacker get away, but he's definitely earning it. He's earning his money. Drew Tranquill, a fantastic performance. And really, he was the guy that changed the tempo of this football game for this Chargers defense. He took the momentum away from the Falcons, gave it back to the Chargers, and they did some good things with it.
And unfortunately, he got absolutely truck sticked on the goal line by Cordero Patterson. That was brutal, because he made the right read. He got caught in between shuffles as he was kind of scraping down the line of scrimmage. He was kind of caught in between steps and couldn't really load up for it. But he had Cordero Patterson dead to rights. It would have brought up a fourth down and goal, and we would have seen what the Falcons would have done there. Probably should have just ran it and got it anyways. But either way, Drew Tranquill made some great reads. Had a couple tackles for loss in this game. I thought had the big sack that really help the Chargers get back in this game. Without that sack, if Marcus Mariota escapes right there, who knows? The Falcons might go down there and go up 17-0, because I mean, that was the one thing, even though the Chargers pressure, I thought was very calculated and it wasn't totally consistent throughout the entire game.
Right.
They did a really good job of keeping Marcus Mariota in the pocket. They did a really good job of kind of maintaining him and not letting him scramble and pick up some really big, 20-yard gains randomly on third down. So I thought they made him uncomfortable enough. The Chargers did catch a break late in the game, because what I thought won them the game late for the defense was the first down run stuff with 5:27 remaining in this game. The Falcons get the ball back in a tie game. And it's like, well, the Falcons team is a team that's built to run a 6-minute drill. You know what I mean? Where they just totally milk the clock. They run the ball right down your throat. They set up a field goal and they win the game. And Young Waku had been great pretty much all, since he's been a Falcon.
Yeah.
On the very first play, the Chargers get a stuff and hold them to a 2-yard gain. It brings up 2nd and 8. The Chargers get absolutely bailed out on 2nd down. Kyle Pitts probably should have had a 75-ish yard touchdown.
Yeah.
But the Chargers did enough to make Marcus Mariota in the pocket a little bit uncomfortable. I think if he's standing in a clean pocket right there, I think that's 100% a touchdown. Marcus Mariota, when we were watching, David, he has found receivers deep. I mean, that's not something he's just whiffing all the time on. I mean, he had a chance there, and that changes the game entirely. I get it. Sure. I mean, the Chargers definitely got a little bit lucky there. But on 3rd down right there, David, 3rd and 8 to win the game, or, to give the Chargers offense a chance to win the game, Derwin James is covering perfectly. The ball falls incomplete and the Chargers get the ball back. So again, this is a flawed defense. They got manhandled up front for a lot of this game.
Yep.
But there's ways they can still win with that. This is a defense that has to kind of play with a lead a little bit, right? This is kind of what the defense is there. And that plays more to their strengths. If they're down and you can just run against them, it's going to be easy.
Oh, yeah.
But right there, David, those 2 plays in the first half where you get the ball back, the Khalil Mack forced fumble where he sets the tone for the defense and says, hey, I'm not giving up inside the 5-yard line. I'm going to take this ball away. You get the ball back to, the offense with just over, a few minutes left to play to go down and win the game. It's not perfect, David, but they did enough. And I think doing enough is kind of what we have to take at this point.
The Chargers are 5-3, despite how this game looked in the beginning, in the middle, at the end of this football game. The Chargers were the winners. They had the most points when the clock struck triple zeros. They have improved to 5-3. They are not 4-4. That is a gigantic difference.
It is.
This win here has the ability to change the trajectory of their season. If they're able to get healthy, sitting at 5-3 puts you in a much better situation. You still have a little bit of an ugly stretch to go through, but 5-3 definitely feels 1,000 times better.
Yeah, I mean, the next couple games, you get the 49ers and the Chiefs. It's going to be tough. It can change again in a hurry. But this is what this team is. This team is going to have to scratch and claw and be flawed and find weird ways to win like they did today. Chargers defense deserves, some credit for only allowing 7 points in the second half. They did give up they had a field goal that was missed against them. That obviously helps, but they did enough. And like I said, doing enough is going to have to be enough right now. And for Chargers fans out there, it's like, hey, you just got to find the enjoyable parts. This season already could have been a wreck with the injuries that they face, with everything going on, bad play calling, bad defensive play calling, whatever. So much has gone wrong. This season could be over already, feeling at this point, right? Now you're 5-3 with a chance to try to fight and claw your way to the playoffs. And I think even though you have Justin Herbert, who's playing with fractured cartilage and everything else, like, you have to kind of be okay with that to a certain extent right now and just hope, hey, maybe the Chargers can find a way to do it. That Atlanta Falcons team is not a terrible team, right? That's a decent team over there. They're not that different from the Seahawks or the Jaguars or whoever else, right? Everyone's about the same. The Chargers are right in that mix, and they're giving themselves a chance down the stretch, and we'll see what happens. That's kind of going to be the approach the rest of the way, David. But hey, enjoy this one. A nice early game where the Chargers don't ruin your game, ruin the rest of your Sunday at the very least, right? But we will be back with you guys tomorrow, as we always are, with our buy or sell after the Chargers game, getting into the biggest storylines, buying or selling those, and getting into the news that we get. Hopefully we get some good injury news on guys like Trey Pipkins from this game and Austin Johnson, and both big-time contributors for the Chargers. But to make sure you guys don't miss it, make sure you're subscribing to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel. If you're watching right now, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, like the video if you guys like the content as well. You can also find us on any podcast platform that you use, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. We are free and available every day wherever you get your podcast from. We also post the show to all of our social media every day. You guys can find us on Twitter at LockedOnLAC. You can find me on Twitter at DanTalkSports and David Drogemeyer on Twitter at DroTalkSD. David Drogemeyer's DMs are always open. You can also find us at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and you can find our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. Thank you guys for making us your first listen on this postgame show. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back here tomorrow with buy or sell, including it's time for Isaiah Spiller to be featured a little bit more in this offense. And we'll get into that tomorrow. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.